Hello, it's Tuesday, October the 10th. The word for you today, second day of contrary winds, those winds that come into our lives and change things. In Acts chapter 27, we're talking about Paul as a prisoner on board a ship, taking him to Rome, where he's going to stand before Caesar. This is a cargo ship that also carries grain to Italy. They left late from Caesarea to go to Rome. They left late in the traveling season. The wind has blown against them, causing them to be behind schedule. The season they're traveling in now has strong windstorms and bad weather, causing treacherous traveling. In verse 10, we're looking at Acts chapter 27, verse 10, Paul says, "Men, I can see that our voyage is going to be disastrous and bring great loss to ship and cargo and to our own lives also." What is Paul saying? Paul's saying it's not a good time to go. We should winter here. But the people that made the decision decided to go ahead and go anyway. You know, there are times in life, and the people that made those decisions, they've got to live with it, but so do the other people on the ship. There are times in our lives when our lives are made more difficult by other people. The easy part is just getting away from those people and not letting them affect you. It's not always possible, is it? Sometimes we live with those people. Sometimes what the decisions they make affect us, and there's no getting away from it. So how are we as believers to deal with people who make life difficult for us? How are we to deal with that? Well, the first thing, accept these people as they are and look for ways that you can work together. Romans 12 verse 18 says, "As much as it is possible with you, live at peace with all people." As much as it is possible. In other words, do your best. Look for those positive qualities that they have. Yeah, there's some people you're just going to butt heads with. That's the way it's going to be. But look for the positive qualities that they may have. And just, even though they're making your life more difficult, see if you can find ways to turn this into a positive. The second thing, pray for them. Proverbs 15:1 says, "A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger." Be careful on how you respond to them. Don't respond emotionally or rashly, but stop and think about what you're going to say before you talk to them. The third thing, try to see why they're acting the way that they do. Matthew chapter 7, verse 12 says, "In everything, do to others what you would have them do to you. For this sums up the law and the prophets." You know, we've all done things and said things we wish we hadn't done. We were having a bad day. We were stressed. It just was tough. And we did or said some things we wish we wouldn't have said. And what we need at that time is for somebody just to say, you know, they're having a bad day. Just give them a break. Well, we can do that with these people who are making life difficult for us too. And the fourth thing, give them the same grace God gives you. Luke chapter 6, verse 36, "Be merciful, just as your Father in heaven is merciful." You know, God is merciful to us. He doesn't always give us what we deserve. So, can we be merciful to others? There was a man named Johnny. He was ministering with other young people with InterVarsity Christian Fellowship in Los Angeles. They were working at a convalescent home where people were, and many of them were there because they pretty much had lost their mind. They could not think straight. Some of them were angry and violent. Others were just very quiet and reclusive. And the staff was very short. They didn't have much staff. And so the residents suffered a lot for that. And the young people that were with InterVarsity Christian Fellowship they said, "Why are we even here? We're not doing any good with these people at all." And they began to really be frustrated with the situation and say, we're not doing any good here. Well, one day, Johnny, after he'd been there for a while, an elderly woman slowly walked up to him and with her finger shook it in his face, and she says, "I know why you're here. I know why you're here." And Johnny and his friend who was with him, they didn't know what she was going to do or say next. And she says, "You're here because God wants us to know that he hasn't forgotten about us. And then she turned and walked away. Last thing in the world they expected her to say. You know, we find ourselves in some places sometimes, and sometimes people are making life more difficult than it needs to be. Accept people. This lady coming up, they didn't want to hear what she had to say because they knew it wasn't going to be good. Pray for them. Try to see why they're acting the way they do. Some of these folks, they just couldn't help it. And then give them the same grace that God gives you. And you know what? God will send somebody or something into your path to show you why you're there. Just like that lady told Johnny. Life may be difficult for you. The winds of life may have blown you into a place that you're not happy with right now. Keep serving. Keep strong. Turn to God. That same wind that blew you into a difficult situation can turn around and blow you into a good situation. So let's serve well until that happens. Have a good day.